Hello, and welcome to the Millionaire of the Bible series call. My name is Issachar Bey, and I am the Senior Director of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. I want to thank you for being on the call. We are delighted and happy that we are gathered to find the time and the opportunity to impart wisdom, to impart knowledge, to impart more golden nuggets, more truths that will begin to expand our consciousness, begin to elevate us, allow us to see things that we never saw before, hear what we've never heard before, but more importantly, begin to allow us to expand our territory. This month of September, I begin to talk about this on our Wednesday night call. If you missed that call, you can go to our YouTube page under Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center, and we begin to talk about September is the month of prosperity. It's the month where we will be operating in the prosperity consciousness, and we will be teaching about prosperity, and we'll be teaching about operating in that consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Consciousness is our own reality. And in order for us to experience prosperity, we have to dwell in that consciousness. And so we've been already operating on a millionaire's consciousness. We've been operating in our consciousness now. We're moving into, today we're going to be moving into chapter 5, which is the prosperity from the Lord's Prayer. I'm going to look at the Lord's Prayer from this Millionaire of the Bible series perspective. Let's look at it metaphysically and really break down the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer happens to be a very significant prayer. It's a very common but most utilized prayer in the church. But we're going to take a look at it from a metaphysical sense to really see how we can really adapt and apply it to our lives and begin to look at it from the metaphysical scope that we can apply it. The Lord's Prayer contains one of the greatest series of success formulas ever offered to mankind. The success formula contains precepts and concepts that show you how to receive those blessings. The Lord's Prayer is filled with tremendous power that can be successfully released into your daily life here and now. You know, one of the things I love about these teachings is that although these books were written years ago, as I told you before, everybody that's been on these calls every week, you can come back and listen to these calls a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, and they will mean something totally different than they mean now. Because as you elevate, as you evolve, and your consciousness expands, so does your life, so does everything about you, which means that what these teachings would mean to you now will be totally different because you'll be at another level. And no matter what level you are, you're able to pull out of this the very things that you need. That's why this is so great. It's the ability to release that word here and now, to declare the Lord's Prayer over and over again, can fire your whole being with new energy, power, and substance. So when we begin to utilize the Lord's Prayer, we have to really take into consideration the power of this prayer. Take into consideration the abundant, magnificent power that this prayer brings with it. When I was a little boy, it's one of the first things my mom taught me. She said, you got to memorize the Lord's Prayer. You got to know it. And she would come in there and and say, okay, close the Bible and say it. And I had to learn it by heart. But learning something by heart means something different as you go along in life. Because a lot of things we memorize. But when you go through things in life and situations and circumstances and you live life, sometimes that thing that you memorize means something different to you now because you understand it on a different level than just memorizing it. And so you've learned what those words meant and what they mean. But today we're going to go a little deeper, take a deeper dive into a little deeper understanding of what the Lord's Prayer is, how to utilize it, how to apply it, and guess what? How it's going to affect us and give us the ability to advance our lives in a greater place. I'm just excited about these teachings. The Lord's Prayer is one of the most important spiritual documents of all times because it shows man how to get definitive about prosperity and how to attain true prosperity through spiritual methods. In the 6th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, the Lord's Prayer contains some of the finest prosperity secrets offered mankind. They are secrets simply because the average person has not studied and applied the Lord's Prayer from a prosperous standpoint. The basic reason that the Lord's Prayer is so powerful is because both the inner and outer needs of man are covered in this short, concise prayer. Now here we go. We're going to look at how the Lord's Prayer deals with the inner and outer needs of man. Part 1 deals with the inner benefits. So part 1 of the Lord's Prayer deals with the inner benefits of man. How can we be benefited inwardly on the first part of the Lord's Prayer? Of the 54 words in the Lord's Prayer, the first 24 are concerned with the nature of God, both within man and universally. When man recognizes God as his source and his supply, the knowledge satisfies his inner needs. That's good because that shows us this 50. Now you know I'm a numbers guy, and it said that the Lord's Prayer is combined of 54 words. The number 5 is the number of change. It is the number of dealing with the 5 senses. I told you before, even when we were dealing with Joshua and he began to see the 5 kings, whenever you see the number 5, it usually has to do with major changes, but it also speaks about the 5 senses. So now, when you talk about dealing with the prayer, we're talking about being able to block out the 5 senses so that you can now focus on going within, right? The number 4 is the number of organization. It's the number of discipline, structure. So we see here, I'm blocking out my 5 senses because that's what's going to distract me. That's what's going to hinder me from really applying and utilizing the Lord's Prayer the correct way. So I'm blocking out, right, the 5 senses. I'm blocking out what I see, what I hear, what I smell, touch, feel, all of that. Number 4, it allows me to bring organization, structure, and begin to prioritize my life because I'm able to find that structure, right? But guess what? 5 and 4 equals 9. 9 is the number of completion. So that automatically lets me know that the Lord's Prayer is already a prayer of completion. There's nothing to add. There's nothing to take away. And so we'll look into that as we get into this. But this is absolutely phenomenal teaching. I love this kind of stuff because me being a metaphysician, somebody who loves metaphysics, to just dive into and get into this is just absolutely phenomenal. The second half of the Lord's Prayer deals with the outer benefits. And it deals with prayer that takes up man's outer needs for guidance, forgiveness, prosperity, protection, and completed results. When you take its practical power seriously, the second half of the Lord's Prayer can supply your daily needs. So we see here how the first part deals with the inner benefits that we receive. And then once we are coming into the culmination of the inner benefits, we're learning now about how this great dynamic prayer also will begin to help us to see the benefits of the outer needs and begin to get our needs met daily. And I think this is absolutely phenomenal that we're able to really scope in on this with a tight lens and really begin to see how this works out. The first part of the prayer that we deal with says, "Our Father, which are in heaven," Matthew 6:9, which means this prosperity has a spiritual basis. Our Father, which are in heaven. Automatically, we see here how we are all automatically dealing with our Father, which is in heaven. We know that heaven represents the mind, that the Father is in us. We always talk about God in me, God in man, right? So here we already, our Father. He's already classifying our Father, which is in us, which is in our mind, our imagination, right? We believe that God is in man. You know, Reverend Ike always said, there is no pie in the sky. The God that you're looking for is already within. He uses the word, he calls him Father, and basically he's letting us know that he's also operating in sonship, divine sonship, because he's saying our Father. He's letting us know here that he's already classifying himself as a son. He understands the significance of sonship. When Jesus affirmed our Father, which are in heaven, he was actually emphasizing that God's abundance is found in heavenly, prosperous states of mind. Here we go, looking at, I think that when we look at this, we look at this from the perspective God's abundance found in a heavenly prosperous state of mind, the state of consciousness that dwells in prosperity. That consciousness, because he lets us know that we have that Father, we have that covering, that the one who's covering us, the one who's our Father, who's going to take care of us, that cares about us, that actually that we're never going to be alone. He would never leave or forsake us. He's giving us that indication there, but then he's also letting us know not only is he our Father, but he's also giving us the location of where he is. Straight off the top, he tells you, our Father, which are in heaven. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You never have to think or wonder. You know where your Father is. Goes on to say, hallowed be thy name. To dwell upon God's goodness brings prosperity. Our Father, which are in heaven, Jesus went a step further and explained why he dared to claim God as the rich source of his supply. Hallowed be thy name. The word hallow means whole and perfect. Jesus understood that the name and nature of God was of unchanging, perfect, whole, good. Let me read that again. He says here, the nature of God, the name and nature. Now, understand that I said this before. Your name is your nature. We actually talked a little bit about this on Wednesday. I talked about I think there was 11 different ways I showed how to remove the blocks that hinder you from money manifestation. And one of the things we talked about was that your name is your nature, being able to know who you are. If somebody comes to you and says, who are you? You're going to tell them your name. But just because you tell them your name, that's not telling them who you are. But you have to understand that your name is your nature. And we understand that when a person's life changed, when their nature changed, we've seen this happen over and over again. When Saul became Paul, when Abram became Abraham, we see the name change. Whenever there's a situation to where these things take place, you have to be in that place to where you are understanding the nature and the name. Here we understand the name and the nature of God because he's unchanging. He's perfect, whole, and good. That God is the sum total of all good. Thus, he's whole and perfect in all his ways. He's whole and perfect in all his ways. Many of the problems are solved when he understands that the nature of God, both within him and universally, as good, whole, perfect, and available to him. Thus, you can be prepared just by So I like this because what this actually details and entails to let us know is that many of man's problems are solved when he understands the nature of God, both within him and universal, as good, whole, and perfect, and available to him. Thus, you can be prospered just by meditating and decreeing a belief in God's whole and unchanging, perfect, good for you. We have to understand that when it says our Father which are in heaven, understand our Father is unchanging. Our Father is whole. He's perfect. There's the our Father he speaks of is of a spiritual context. That's why he says our Father which is in heaven. So we already see the dynamic here that he's speaking of him in a spiritual connotation. That the Father that he speaks of is within us, because heaven represents your mind. Heaven represents your mind. Thy kingdom come, Matthew 6:10. To ask that which God's kingdom come is the cover-all prayer and success. In the first two phrases of the Lord's Prayer, our attention has been centered on the nature of God. Our Father, universal, everywhere present, who art in heaven, within, hallowed be thy name, hallowed be thy name, whole and perfect, in God's goodness, both within and without. The Greek translation for the word thy kingdom come means thy realm returned, or thy realm restored. When it says thy kingdom come, what it's saying is that thy realm of substance, that realm returned, or thy realm restored. Thy kingdom come, this is a prayer for fulfillment and for visible, satisfying results. Because you're saying, thy kingdom come. So now the Bible says that the kingdom of God is within man. So when we say thy kingdom come, what we're saying is we're looking for the fulfillment for the visible, satisfying results. Because as we're going along this, we're breaking down and looking at this from an intricate perspective. The Lord's Prayer has been a prayer that has been one of probably the most valuable, the most popular prayers of all time. And what we're learning today is how to really look at this from the metaphysical perspective, but also how to apply it to our lives. Not just to quote it, not just to be able to say it, but know what it means and begin to now operate under that new level of knowledge and awareness. When you pray thy kingdom come, get ready for surprises. You are not praying for something to be imposed upon you, but for something to be released within you. Because the kingdom of God begins within your own thought and feeling nature. There we go. When we talk about the kingdom is always within. So when he says thy kingdom come, as it says, we are releasing something. Something is being released inside of us. But guess what? Anytime something is released on the inside, the inside will be the cause effect, and the outside will be the effect. For every cause, there is an effect. So with the release on the inside, there's going to be an effect on the outside, which means that when you say thy kingdom come and something is released on the inside, you can be very sure and without a shadow of a doubt know that something in your physical reality is also getting ready to change. To pray this prayer means that you first, great changes must come within your own thoughts and feelings. Also, the use of this prayer many things bring outer changes because you are asking God to strip your life of everything that is not for your highest good. This prayer also means that God's kingdom of good can come into your life only when you are equally willing for it to come into the lives of others. Your own prayers may not be answered until you are willing to pray that God's kingdom of good comes even to those people who are oppressed, disappointed, or who have come against you. So this is the thing too. You know, we talk about being humble. The law, I would say, the law of humility, right? Coming into a level of humility that you are humble enough to be teachable, to be flexible, to be adaptable, to not allow yourselves to be stuck or to not be able to transition and move. But when you operate in spiritual consciousness, you have to understand that you have to be able to change and move, because you don't want to get stuck in one state of consciousness. You want to be able to move. As we went through these millionaire teachings from Joshua all the way to where we are now, we begin to understand how we were able to shift from consciousness to consciousness. Every time they took over a new town, every time they moved into or encountered a new person, it was a new level of consciousness that they were able to shift into. So you got to be adaptable. You got to be able to change. But this is the thing, too. The Lord's Prayer is not just for us. It's about us being able to pray for others, those who may have disappointed you, those who may have come against you, those who may have even tried to harm you or persecute you, right? Those that may have tried to oppress you. The good things, so we come down to this: thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Now look at this right here. It says, thy will be done in earth. It's going to be, your will is going to be done in earth just as it is in heaven, which means as it is in your conscious mind, as it is in your mind, in your consciousness, so shall it play out on the earth. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He was asking for definite results to a prayer. Earth symbolizes the visible results, whereas heaven symbolizes the invisible states of mind. And I always say this to you guys: that which is tangible is temporary. So that which is in the physical realm will always be temporary, but that which is intangible is eternal in the heavens. The intangibility of the mind, of operating in mind. So whenever you see the word heaven, understand that the word heaven is a word of intangibility, because it deals with the spiritual levels of mind, the spiritual consciousness, the invisibility, things that are not able to be seen, touched, or felt, the invisibility of it, the intangibleness of it. And I like how it says here. It says, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I got to say this to you: your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, the heaven of your mind. So if you need your will done on earth, you got to make sure that that same will that you need done on earth is the same will that's been done in the mind, because you can only produce the will that was already in the mind. So if there's a will that's being produced in your life that you feel is not correct, you got to go back up into the heavens, because it can only be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Ask daily for more than enough. The Greek translation for daily bread meant super substantial bread or more than enough. Jesus' prayer meant, give us this day our super substantial bread, or more than enough. Jesus knew that a rich, loving Father who made our physical bodies is also concerned with our physical needs. Metaphysically, the word bread symbolizes the rich substance of the universe. Give us this day our daily bread was a decree to give us this day our daily supply of unlimited substance of the universe in rich, appropriate form. I'll say that again. Give us this day our daily bread was a decree to give us this day our daily supply of unlimited substance of the universe in rich, appropriate form. Jesus has spent the first half of the Lord's Prayer reminding himself and his followers of the nature of God as lavish good and of man's availability to the abundant goodness. Now, in the last half of the Lord's Prayer, Jesus spoke of man's daily practical needs and as of loving a father's desire to meet those needs when men ask for his help. Prosperity, forgiveness, protection, and deliverance were all promised. So we see here what we're getting ready to see as we getting more deeper into the significance and the understanding of this prayer. We're getting to understand that this prayer consists of prosperity, forgiveness, protection, and deliverance. The secret for manifesting unlimited supply is not enough just to recognize God as the source of all your supply. That leaves your desired good in the realm of the invisible substance. After recognizing that God is your supply, claim that supply in definite, specific terms. Give us this day our daily bread is a powerful prosperity prayer because it opens your mind to receive the wealth of the universe now. We begin to look at this from this perspective. This is good teaching. I mean, listen, this is good for me. I feel like I'm at a whole nother level now. Just what I'm going to start using as we operate this month of September. We operate in the consciousness of prosperity. That's what we're operating in. Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. Forgiveness is the turning point to results. Forgiveness is the turning point to results. Immediately after the prayer for prosperity came forgiveness. Perhaps the reason that Jesus listed forgiveness as one of the tangible needs of man is because forgiveness is more than a spiritual, mental, emotional, and psychological action. In order to be successful on all levels of life, forgiveness shall be not just an occasional act, but one that is practiced daily as a way of life. Forgiveness is very powerful because the person that you holding a grudge from, see, when you don't forgive somebody, you feel like the person that you're mad at that person and you're angry at that person and you're holding a grudge against that person. But the only person that's really, I would say, being bound up and being somewhat, closed in or put in the cage themselves is you. But when you forgive, you're actually releasing. Because now check this out. This is very important. I've known people who have held grudges and haven't been able to forgive people all their lives. And by holding that animosity and holding that guilt and holding that vengeance and everything inside of them, it really affected their health. Did you know that not forgiving can affect your health? I just believe that forgiveness is one of the most important acts that we can do. And it talks about here doing the daily forgiveness. But I think the most important thing is we learn how to forgive ourselves. Because a lot of times we blame ourselves. I shouldn't have done that. I'm the reason that this happened. If I didn't do that, then this wouldn't have happened. And if I didn't do that, then this wouldn't have happened. But learning how to forgive yourself, I think, is very important. And then, like they said, learning how to forgive others, not really putting the blame on what happens or doesn't happen. But I believe that when we allow ourselves to really start moving and acting in forgiveness, you'll see so many doors begin to open. There's power in forgiveness, and that's really another teaching that I need to do on another day in another way. But there's something about the secret of forgiveness, because it's a great power. It's a great power when you can forgive somebody and begin to overcome that situation or that circumstance that took place and begin to elevate yourself above it. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Matthew 6:13. You can be protected from life's problems, divinely delivered into greater good when you claim it. All right, let's take a look at this. We are in Matthew 6:13, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Let's look at that. Lead us not into temptation. One of the things that I used to hear people say all the time is that the devil knows what you like and he tempts you with what you like. But, sorry to say, but there is no devil. I've never heard more people blame the devil than any other people in the church. They always blame the devil for everything. The devil tempted me. The devil made me do it. And they talk about the enemy, and the only enemy is the enemy, the inner you. That's the only enemy that you will ever have, is the enemy, that inner you. So when we begin to when we look at that and move in that level of consciousness, we see that our loving Father will never lead us into temptation, nor will he leave us there. According to the root word meaning, lead us not into temptation means to test, right? It means to not test us, because the temptation, when we say lead us not into temptation, we feel like whenever we're tempted on something that we're being tested, right? This was considered to be the prayer of protection. Too many people get into the periods of testing and just stay there fighting them, so that such periods become destructive, negative experiences, rather than constructive periods in soul growth and expanded good that they were meant to be. Many negative conditions in life would clear up quickly in those situations if we would, one, stop fighting them, ask that the lesson to be learned be revealed, and ask for deliverance from the experience. Now listen to this. When we talk about the test, or lead us not into temptation, these are the steps that we might want to utilize to stop fighting it, right? Ask for the lesson that needs to be revealed. I say this all the time. Everything in life is not necessarily a roadblock. It's not there to kill you, to destroy you. But a lot of things, or I believe most of the things that we ever encounter in life, right, are lessons. We choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. So we always come to the culmination that life is going to give us lessons. And then you ask for deliverance from those experiences. So when it says deliverance, it means that once I got my lesson and I learned what the lesson is, I was able to remove myself from the residue and remove myself from being connected to that I can now move on and leave that where it is. That's why the Bible says, he that put his hand to the plow and looking back is not fit for the kingdom, which means that once you let something go in the past, leave it in the past. Don't still hold on to it, because it won't allow you to move forward. But deliverance from the experience means to be delivered, means to be loosed and set free from it. So now that I can move along without the hindrance or the burden of carrying that thing. Leave me not in this time of testing, but deliver me from evil. This, as I said before, was considered a protection prayer. God is my defense and my deliverance now. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Praise God as the source of all your blessings. Then dare to think big. It is significant that the Lord's Prayer begins and ends with a description of the nature of God and his goodness to man. This last phase ends the prayer, not on a problem note, but again reminding man of the availability of God's goodness to him. Realizing this helps man to mentally accept the answers to his prayers. Strength for overcoming life's problems is gathered through repetition of God's goodness. If you can realize the importance on this last phase from the Lord's Prayer, suffering, problems, burdens would all disappear like a morning mist from your life. The prophet Khalil, he wrote this: to dwell upon this last phrase of praise from the Lord's Prayer can increase and fulfill your joy. This is what he said. I'll read what he said. Your prayer is your distress. This is what he says. You pray in your distress and in your need, with that you might also pray in the fullness of your joy and in your day of sunshine. So what he's saying is, don't just pray when the chips are down, but also pray when everything is going good for you as well. Prosperity comes as a result of thinking big. You should not hesitate to act largely, for God can give much as easily as he can give little. Most people think in terms of hundreds of dollars. It is a crowded field. Still, others think in terms of thousands of dollars. It is a less crowded field, but few people think in terms of millions of dollars. This less crowded the area of thought, the less competition, and the more room there is for experiencing prosperity in larger terms. It talks about here thinking big, right? To think big, to operate your level of consciousness, to really adapt. These principles that we've learned today, we're learning them to apply and to give us that prosperity formula of success, of how to expand our level of consciousness, how to overcome life's situations and circumstances, that they're not problems that we look at and magnify 10, 100,000 times bigger than what they are, but that we have the solutions already within us to be, to do, and to have all that we desire. Now, the way they end the prayer is they end it by saying amen, right? Miracles often happen when you speak words of completion, right? Amen, which meant so be it, or so it is, right? According to thy faith and thy rich ideas. So when you say the word whenever you say the word amen, what you're saying is according to thy faith and these rich ideas. So you're basically sealing off what it is that you're doing, right? It will be done unto thee. The word amen also means let the good manifest now. Let the good manifest now according to thy faith and these rich ideas. Whereas when you speak the words of completion, it speeds up the results. Miracles often happen. So here is your last success secret from the Lord's Prayer. Yes, you too can work miracles in your life by declaring completion, amen. So the prayer here, which is significant, we always end our prayer and we always say amen, right? Because we have come to the culmination, to the completion of our prayer. And we've come to the completion of the prayer. But one of the things that I like is that whenever we are ending our meditations and whenever we're ending, so I've always said, and so it is. Some people could say, so be it. But we can also say, according to thy faith, according to my faith in these rich ideas. Or we can say, let my good manifest now. The power of completion. Now, we've already known that the Lord's Prayer consists of 54 words. I think that this is absolutely phenomenal because we talked about the number 9. I even see Reverend Quentin is talking about the 9s, and he's doing special things or readings with the number 9s, right? The number 9 represents completion. It represents coming full circle, meaning not adding anything to it, nor taking everything away. It's full completion. It has come to the culmination. Finito, right? It is finished. I spoke about the number 9s because it was in the 9th hour when Jesus said it is finished and he gave up the ghost. We talk about the number 9 as the house of manifestation when I talked about the 9 different levels in the house, the 9 floors in the house of manifestation. And when you got to the 9th house, that was the top floor. We talked about the culmination, the completion, right? We talked about the number 9 as in a baseball game, there's 9 innings. When a woman has a baby, right, she doesn't give birth until 9 months. It takes 9 months to have a baby, right? We look at that. We look at that culmination. There's been a big investigation and a big conspiracy theory about people who die at the age 27, right? Amy Winehouse and so many other people who have died at 27. But the age 27, 2 plus 9 is 7. 2 plus 7 is 9, which gives you the number of completion, right? We deal with the significances here of the number 9 and the significance, the culmination of it, and what it entails. And so this prosperity law of the Lord's Prayer is absolutely phenomenal. My favorite part, of course, is going to be number 4, where it says, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. The good things in life are God's will for you. This is very important to me because as a manifester, as a person who creates their own reality, many of you on this call today, you are a manifester. You are created to create your own reality. And the only way that thy will can be done on earth is only how it's going to be done in heaven. And if it's not done correctly or it's not done in your liking, you have the ability to go in and change it by going into the heavens of your mind and beginning to change what it is. God has given you everything. There's nobody on this call. There's actually a call that I did, and it's on the YouTube channel. It's called The Secret of Prayer. You can go back and listen to that. Nobody should ask God for anything because everything that you need, you already have it within you. If you fail to go within, you must learn to live without. Everything that you need is already within you. Everything you need is already within you. So we look at that and begin to really utilize the ways that we are able to really apply this Lord's Prayer. I'm going to really work with this prayer. I think that it's absolutely phenomenal. There's so many. I would have loved to. I could actually take apart this whole thing and teach on each part of it and really get into a deep dive on it. But what we did was we were able to look at it in from a metaphysical lens, and I really think that I got something great out of it. I hope that you guys are able to really get something very profound out of this teaching. The Lord's Prayer is considered a brief summary of the good news, right, that Jesus gave us in the Gospels. People have told us many times before of how popular and how great that prayer is, right? It's one of the most important spiritual documents, as we said before, containing the 54 words. It is the success formulas that have found, right, about spiritual laws of wholeness and showing us how to use the Lord's Prayer in obtaining prosperity. One of the reasons why the Lord's Prayer is so powerful, as we have learned today, is because of its both inner and outer benefits of a man are covered. So it deals with the inner and outer needs of man. It shows us how we will be benefited inwardly and how we will be benefited outwardly. And it gives us those concepts and precepts that we can apply. But what I love also is that true prosperity will always have a spiritual base. It would always be of a spiritual connotation. What we think we are going after, and so this is the thing for me. I'm an inside person. I tell people that all the time, and they laugh at me, and they make fun of me, and they say, "Oh, you're crazy. What do you mean you're an inside person?" What I mean by that is this. I'm not a person that's really concerned about the outside. And what I mean by that is, I understand how, when you go outside, there's a certain way you need to look. When you go outside, there's a certain persona or upkeep that you carry yourself in a certain manner and so forth as well. But I've seen too many people portray to be something that they're not. I see too many people wearing a mask. I see too many people putting up a facade, putting up a false image of what they want people to believe they have or they do or who they are. And I've always believed that what goes on the inside is more powerful and more important than what's going on the outside. But then I also learned that what goes on the inside controls what goes on the outside. So that's why I always say I'm an inside person. Being in the church and seeing, and growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and we used to go to church all the time. It was like a fashion show. We used to wear new suits. Everybody's dressed up. All the women had on the nice big hats, and everybody's wonderful, and everybody's smiling and hugging, and oh, bless the Lord, and praise God, and all of that, and everything is wonderful. But then when you get home, you're cussing each other out. You don't speak to each other. You're fighting and carrying on, and all kind of messes going on in the house. I would want that peace, that understanding, that knowledge, that wisdom, that all of that to go on in the house, not just be a facade on the outside, because what goes on the inside is more important. So prosperity is a spiritual connotation, right? What we see are the demonstration of prosperity, whereas the tangible things, the things of physical substance that are temporary. But you want to be able to hold on or have the connection to prosperity inwardly, that at any given time you can demonstrate it. Whenever you need something in the physical realm, you can, guess what? Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So you can automatically transfer it and make it happen, make it your reality. To dwell upon God's goodness brings prosperity, right? To constantly meditate, to constantly think about or meditate or begin to really operate in the nature and the understanding of God in you, and begin to tap into the divine self and really tap into that oneness, right? To ask that God's kingdom come is the cover all prayer of success. To ask that God's kingdom come, thy kingdom come, is the coverall. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The good things in life are God's will for you. Now, you know what I love too about this prayer is that it asks, we can ask daily, right? We can get our daily bread, or we can ask for more than enough. But then we talk about forgiveness, right? We learned about forgiveness and how important forgiveness is. We also understand and know about the protection. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Praise God as the source of all your blessings. We begin to see that this prayer has now, Catherine Ponder has broken, I'm a numbers guy. She's broken this prayer down into 9 parts. And I find that to be very interesting that she would break the prayer down into 9 parts. And I don't believe none of this is a mistake, because 9 is the number of culmination. There are 54 words in the prayer. She breaks the prayer down into 9 parts. It's systematically, spiritually connected. Everything operates in oneness. And I think that it's very significant that we take this Lord's Prayer and begin to utilize it for its dynamic ability, for its ability to change our lives. As we continue to move forward in the month of September, we will be moving and operating in this place of gratitude, this place of increase, this place of deliverance, and this place of abundance. And I'm excited about what's going to be happening. Listen, those of you that have been a part of this call, I want to definitely summon you to continue to utilize these principles, to apply them to your lives, to begin to find the place within you that you can awaken to the God in you, that you can awaken to the necessary principles and precepts and concepts and truths that will elevate you and begin to lift you up above any problems, situations, or circumstances that you are dealing with at this very moment. Consciousness is your only reality. And as we continue to operate in prosperity in this month, we are operating at a high altitude. And I want you to be able to start moving in a level of demonstration, because we are, this Wednesday, I will be teaching on the whole month of September on Wednesday. We're going to be teaching on prosperity. So I'm going to be teaching, I think this Wednesday, I'll be talking about the 10 keys of prosperity keys to wealth. I think we'll be talking about that. So you definitely want to jump on the call this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make the call, it's okay. We're going to put it on our YouTube channel. You can listen to the replay. So I want to definitely, as I said before, we are operating. So this is what we're going to do. I began to speak with Reverend Israel last week, and what was so amazing was that I did the Wednesday call, and I didn't speak to Israel, Reverend Israel, until Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning. And Reverend Israel began to prophesy to me about how I need to move into prosperity teachings. And I said, Reverend Israel, you're dead on. I said, because tonight I just told the people that Spirit told me for the whole month of September, we're going to operate in prosperity. He said, what? I said, man, you're not going to believe this. I actually sent him the teaching that I did on Wednesday. It was already recorded. I already had it on the YouTube channel. I put it up for him. I said, you're not going to believe this. I just told the people that Spirit told me, and we began to operate and and he began to tell me some more things. And he shifted me into where we're going for the month of September. For the month of September, we are moving and operating in our law of circulation. We're moving and operating for this month of September in prosperity. What we're doing is this, that we're now, listen, this is just our spirit just gave me this. This is amazing. I want everybody to hear this. We talked about the Lord's Prayer having 54 words in it, 54, which equals 9. 9 is the number of completion. We talked about how Catherine Ponder broke the Lord's Prayer down into 9 steps and begin to operate. We begin to see and operate in the level of 9, right? We begin to move and operate in 9. Then we also are realizing that we are in September, which is the 9th month. And we are in the month of culmination. We're in this month of prosperity, the month of the 9th month. And so with that being said, we are dealing or operating in our moment of circulation. We believe that what we release out of our hands will come back to us 100-fold return. That which we release will come back to us 100-fold return. We are operating in the month of September with a seed of $91.11. And we're actually operating that out of Psalms 91:11. 91:11, Psalms 91:11 says, "For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways." Now, I love that. I want to just look at that very briefly in the new. I want to look at that in the Amplified. I love the Amplified version. It just gives a different perspective. Let's see here. All right, so I love the Amplified. I have an Amplified Bible, and it's like all marked up and written on. I just love the translation of the Amplified. But Amplified, Psalms 91:11 says here, "For he will command his angels in regard to you, protect, defend, and guard you in all your ways of obedience and service. For he will command his angels in regard to you to protect, defend, and guard you in all your ways of obedience and service." I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And so we're working with the $91.11 seed. 9111. 9111 is actually the 3. 3 is the number of self-expression. 3 is the now 3 is also the number of expansion, right? To expand your level of consciousness. We're dealing with prosperity. So whenever you start dealing in prosperity, you're dealing in expansion, because prosperity cannot be contained, because prosperity is ever evolving, and something that's ever evolving will always keep expanding. Once it expands, it never goes back to its original form. And the number 3 has been connected to the planet Jupiter. And the planet Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It is the planet of travel. It's the planet of philosophy. It's the planet of religion, right? All of these things are culminating under the number 3. So when we sow that seed, we're actually sowing the seed to really dwell into this planetary configuration of dealing with Jupiter. Now listen to this. Oh, this is amazing. What's amazing is the ninth sign. The ninth sign of the zodiac is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the ninth sign, right? It's the ninth sign of the zodiac, right? And when you start looking at the zodiac and its and its order, when we start looking at it, the order. You start looking at Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the ninth sign of the zodiac, but Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. We're in the ninth month. We've been dealing with nines all day in our teachings, everything about the nines. So what we will be doing is actually culminating and operating, because that number 3 is of the Jupiterian nature, and Jupiter rules that nature in it. So I think that this is a phenomenal teaching. Those of you that are going to sow the $91.11 seed, what you can do is go ahead and sow it. We have 4 ways that you can sow that seed and pull it into good ground. Number one is you can sow it Cash App, $TOESC, Temple of Enlightenment Spiritual Center. Number 2, what you can do is begin to send it through PayPal, which is going to be Issachar Bey, ISSACHARBEY. That's what we can also do. You can also send it by Zelle, which is also going to be Zelle is going to be Issachar Bey, ISSACHARBEY. So we have, and then you can also send it. You can also send it by Venmo, which is going to be the @ ISSACHAR-Bay. You can send it by Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, or PayPal. So we want to thank you for putting the $91.11 in the ground. How you lift up others, or how you sow into others, how you maintain others will show, or will always show, or be orchestrated how you get maintained, how you get sustained. Or should I say, who you maintain will determine how you get sustained. Who you sustain will determine how you get maintained, right? Now, we're not trying to get anything out of you. We're trying to get something to you. It's very ironic because the whole month of August, I'm going to speak to some people today, because some people have some great testimonials and some great things that's happening to them, and I'm going to be talking to them. So how you get, I would say, who you sustain will determine how you get maintained, right? But it's something about sowing and putting it to the ground that changes your circumstance, that changes your situation. But this is what happens. If you want something, you give it away, you let it go. But if you hold on to it, you'll lose it. That which I let go of is what I already have, because listen, what you let go of, you're letting the universe know that I have more than enough. I have plenty. So once I release this and let it go and circulate it, it's coming back to me 100-fold. Because we don't operate in circulation. We operate in circulation. We don't spend money. We don't spend time. We don't spend anything, because anything that you spend is an end. In the word spend is the word end, E-N-D. So we no longer spend, but we circulate. So that which we release and let go of, it circulates back to us 100-fold. Everything I do, my time I spend, my meditation, what I focus on, who I talk to, who I conversate with, everything I do is an investment. It's a circulation. I circulate it. It comes back to me 100-fold return. So not only does this I deal with this scripture, the Psalms 91. Not only do I deal with that scripture, but that Psalms 91:11, it's really significant here, because He's giving his angels charge over us. He's going to give us the angels to charge to keep us in all thy ways. To keep our minds, to keep our hearts, but to operate and to begin to help us to manifest and to be in the right place at the right time. I think that this is a phenomenal that we get protection, we get confirmation, we get the ability to be sustained, and we get the ability to operate and move in our level of consciousness. So I'm excited about that. Listen, I want to definitely remind you to join me on Wednesday. We're going to be continuing our prosperity teaching. Those of you that were not able to get any of the teachings, always go to our YouTube page. I upload them on our YouTube page, so you guys should be definitely good to go in getting that. And so we're excited about what's coming. I also want to do this. I have to do this. Spirit has always told me I want to continue to press on you. It's imperative that we continue to build our immune systems. We can, whether you're vaccinated or not, please, we're in September. We're going into fall. We're going into winter. These are the times when most of us, seasons have changed. A lot of people get the flu and so many other things. So we want to make sure that we are building our immune system, that we're going out, we're getting sunlight, that we're taking our vitamins, that we're doing the things that we necessarily need to do to build our immune systems. And so not only do we want to operate in prosperity, but he says, I would above all that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So even though he wants us to prosper, he still wants us to be healthy as well. Health is wealth. And so we want to definitely move and operate in that. So I want to thank all of you for definitely continuing and having the health consciousness to still move and operate in the health consciousness. Now, before we leave, I always like to say this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you to all who were obedient and sowed the seed. And I want you to know that you're greatly appreciated. Until we meet, until next time, may your future, may this week be the best week of your life. Thank you.